beautiful people, welcome to my channel. We are in Navamsha Case Study 3, and this one is a little difficult for me personally because it discusses a topic which I'm not particularly fond of, divorce. And we are seeing this in a couple who's just entered into getting a divorce. So first we'll see the husband's chart, and then later in the next video we will see the wife's chart also. They came to me for consultation. The husband did. So it's a difficult topic, so I want to put it with some questions out there for you to also think about. Not with any personal inclination, but with more of need to think about these things from a Vedic astrology perspective also, seeing the chart and other things. And what is that? Well, number one, if you ask the question, is everybody supposed to get married? Is each one of the individuals supposed to get married, as we all are taught in our cultures, respective cultures? You're supposed to get married, you're supposed to have children, you're supposed to. From a Vedic astrology perspective, if you look at charts like this, are you fit for marriage? And I don't mean that in a judgmental way, so don't start trolling me. I'm just saying, from the chart perspective, if there are elements in a chart which we should see, right? In the case study, is it worthwhile if this lady or gentleman does not get married, just goes through life with other things? There are so many other things. We are in 2023. There's so many other things you can engage your life with. You can read, you can develop hobbies after hobbies, you can keep your mind and your happiness engaged, right, in so many other things. It's not necessary that you have to have a partner. Yes, if you need to get laid, you can always get laid, but not necessarily a marriage. It's a different thing to go and enter into a bonding of marriage. I don't call it a contract. That's very 3D. That's not the way it works in this new energy anyway. And that brings me to number second question. In this new energy, how does relationships play out? Well, there's so many divorces happening. This is what I'm picking up, okay? So many divorces happening because this is a time of energetic recalibration of Earth itself, Akashic shift of Earth. And I made other videos if you want to go through that. It's a very deeply shifting energy of Earth, and in this energy, what happens is the untruths or the shadow part of a person, relationships, is being not tolerated by people. Let it be husband, let it be wife, etc. I won't tolerate this part of this person. I can't put up with this. That energy is very, very strong. Why? Because this is a time of clearing of individual and collective karma on the planet. If you have to move as a planet, individual states, nations, countries, families, everybody, if they have to move into a new way of living and being on this planet, obviously it becomes the next question. All previous karma has to be cleaned out, resolved. Karma cleaning doesn't mean people have to go. That means people have to change their karma. They have to change their path. For that, the old stuff must be wiped out, right? It's a logical next step. That's what is happening by karmic resolution. So even from a higher perspective, if I look at that and want to offer you something like a hope, if you will, because divorces always leave a bad trail of, broken hearts, disappointed and shattered dreams of people, both sides. People get married with some happiness, with some joy. I'm looking forward to spending my life with this person. And if that cuts off, it's not a very nice thing, is it? So I want you to understand from a bigger perspective, it's all happening for a good reason. I want you to also take away that neither person is wrong, okay? They're just human. We are born with one or the other chart, one or the other Rahu and Ketu, one or the other Saturn or Jupiter or whatever other things in the chart. We are all born with one thing or the other. So what will you blame? The chart? The planets? I mean, you can go on blame game endlessly. That's not the point of this exercise. That's not why we are here. We are here in this channel, and whatever I'm trying to bring is to empower each one of you. When I point out the nature of this wife, of this gentleman, which we are about to see in these next slides, it is not with respect to saying that his wife is bad or she's damaged goods or none of this kind of things. I don't come from such a place anyway. Everybody is what they are. Everybody is acting out what they are. That's what Vedic astrology comes to. It's just showing the truth. Now, how you handle the truth is quite another. But remember, again, in this new energy, it's all about higher form of relationships. How you can exist peacefully together. And that's why it is crucial for you to know and understand and begin an appreciation and exploration of Vedic astrology itself. That's the purpose of me bringing this to you. It's to kickstart an interest in you to study this. Why this is so important to study? Because this is very crucial for you in this new energy on this planet at this time. So let us see Navamsha Case Study number 3 of the husband who is filed for divorce, and let us look at from his spouse perspective. So we are looking at the ex-wife from the ex-husband perspective, and next time we will study the wife's one also, which I haven't seen yet, by the way. I haven't analyzed it for the wife, so it'll be like a suspense event for me. I do it only on a case-to-case basis, so I don't know what's coming up. I just do it on the spot. Okay, so let's get into it. So there you have it, the Navamsha Case Study number 3, and we begin with the first house, that is the 7th house of the Navamsha chart of the husband, who's a Leo ascendant, right? Number 5 in the first house. So how does this play out? How does his ex-wife look like and see her marriage to this gentleman? Yeah. So first house is the nature of the spouse itself, individuality, unique qualities of the spouse personality traits, strengths and weaknesses in overall nature. So Saturn is in the first house. Never a good idea to have Saturn in the first house when it comes to relationships in Navamsha, either side, either there or here, because it leads to what? Saturn in the first house leads to melancholic disposition, a Saturnian style, strict. Marriage is a duty. Marriage is not a duty. Anybody who tells you that, you should walk away from that. Marriage is not a duty. You'll never bond with the person. It's a emotional and psychological bond. If you want to get laid, like I said, you can get laid any number of times, but that's not marriage, okay? It's not a duty. So Saturn makes everything into a duty. Saturn is not supposed to be in the first house in Navamsha or the 7th house. Just keep that as a rule. Because you can expect a very harsh kind of behavior from the husband or the wife. It doesn't matter where it comes from. Why? The reason is because it has melancholic disposition, a kind of an innate sadness about it, Saturn. It is strict, it considers everything a duty, it is cynical, it is harsh, it pronounces judgments on everyone, Saturn. That's why people who have a strong Saturn make good judges, good lawyers, law enforcement and so on. Because Saturn is interested in duty, it is interested in law. It is not interested in other things, it is not interested in the finer things of life, okay? Although it supports Venus, how about that? Judgmental kind of approach towards ex-husband. She has a judgmental kind because she's looking at the husband from her head. First house is the head. Okay? And Ketu here from his 5th house, from her 5th house, looking at it from her 5th house, we are looking at ex-wife's perspective of the husband in the marriage. Remember that. So here what happens is Ketu looks at the first house, so it cuts off any kind of romantic love, sensuality, candlelight dinner, nice to have candlelight dinner, scented house, perfumes, these finer aspects which make us human. It cuts off that because 5th house is the ability for romance. Do you have an ability to be romantic? Otherwise, why are you getting married? That's the question. If you don't have any sense of romance in you, Ketu in the 5th house cuts off that approach to marital bonding. It looks at the ascendant of the spouse, and Saturn and Ketu combined will give a very harsh, detached approach. You see, there right off the bat is the first reason why this gentleman should not be getting married. Because the spouse that comes along will have this approach, not necessarily an Aquarius ascendant, by the way. It's a nature. We are not telling necessarily he will have an Aquarius ascendant or she will have an Aquarius ascendant. She thinks romance is a total waste of time. Aquarius Leo friction plays out very strongly in the relationship. Why? Because Saturn is exalted in Aquarius. It's its Mool Trikon sign. It's its root sign, so to speak. Especially if the lords are in the first house. For example, if it's a Leo Aquarius axis like this, if Saturn in the first house of Leo, or if other way also, if it's Aquarius and Saturn is there, it's in its own sign, it has got full strength, right? And so is Sun. If Sun is sitting in Leo, it has the full strength. And if it looks at Aquarius in a Navamsha, it has full strength again. So it becomes like you don't want marriage to be a battleground. Okay? It wants to be a smooth, harmonious relationship. You're looking for peace, love and nurturing and caring, don't you? So let's look at the second house now. Now let's look at the second house. Her second house, what is there? It's a sign of Pisces. So the dispositor of that sign, Jupiter, is sitting in her sixth house. Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, so it has got strength there. Okay, and Jupiter, on the other hand, also looks at this house from the ninth aspect. So, and Venus, what other aspect is looking? Venus sitting in her eighth house from the sign of Virgo is looking at this particular house. So these are the aspects from different planets on this house. Dispositor, other Jupiter's aspect is there, Venus aspect is there directly. Rest are not affecting this house. What does second house stands for? Finances earned by the spouse. Whatever finances she is earning, voice, speech or verbal things by the spouse, kind of speech. Second house is a house of speech. So what does this lead to? Family, spouse, kids become enemies. It's a perception. Remember, enemy is just, or a friend is just a perception, how you see them. She sees them as enemies. Why? The dispositor, Jupiter, is sitting in the sixth house of enemies, debts, quarrels and arguments. Tendency of this lady will be to argue everything. Okay? Because Jupiter in the sixth house, it expands whatever it touches. Learning through enemies is Jupiter's quality when it enters sixth house. Okay, it expands anything it touches, although it tempers it a little bit with wisdom, but still it is still the sixth house. So aspects of the sixth house Jupiter will take on. Venus looks from the eighth house. Now eighth house, Venus sitting in Virgo sign, which is all about calculations and money and grounded sign. So Venus is very important to look at in Navamsha because it is the Karaka of Navamsha. And it looks towards the second. So keeping secrets from the spouse. Why 8th house is the house of secrets? 8th house is the house of hidden things, joint assets and so on, right? So it looks from there towards the second house, meaning she is keeping secrets from spouse, needing secret affairs to keep going on with the marriage. This I just got intuitively. Confide secrets to outsiders about her marriage. Again, my own intuition. More interest in financial joint assets than the success of marriage itself. Okay? That's what Venus brings with this arrangement for this lady over here. Now let's look at the third house. Well, that was funny. I started streaming instead of recording. But anyway, here we go. Again, her third house. In the third house, what do we have? In the third house, we have Mercury. His dispositor Mars is sitting in the fourth house of home and family. And then Rahu from the 11th house, looking at it from her perspective, is looking at this house. Rahu's dispositor is Jupiter sitting in the 6th house. So what does this lead us to? Third house is the house of skills, hobbies, communication, relationship with peers, siblings, spouses, family, spouses, brother and sister, siblings, in-law, and so on in the marriage. It also represents short journeys, etc. So because of this arrangement of Jupiter in 6th house looking at Rahu, through Rahu looking at the 3rd house, and Mars sitting in the 4th house, and Saturn making it difficult because it's a third aspect from Saturn, talking and communicating is a big effort for her. Less communication because it's third from the Saturn, third place from Saturn, natal or Navamsha in any chart, makes that place suppressed. It makes it a place of effort. Okay, you need to effort there to bring things about positively. This is what Saturn tells you to do. Look at third place for myself, and that's where you need to put the effort. Okay, she's better at writing. Talking can become aggressive, calculated, shrewd with the spouse and spouse's family. Why? Dispositor Mars is in the 4th house. Mars you don't need at home. Mars is an aggressive planet. It can get triggered very quickly in all of us. And you don't need that sitting at home. Otherwise you will have like a soldier running around inside your home, always ready to look for a fight and pick up and then start fighting with people. That's not what you need. Mars is needed outside. Mars is needed in the place where it is needed, in the external work maybe, right? So that's what it leads to. Talking aggressive. Calculated and shrewd. Why? Because Rahu is looking at it. Rahu is calculating and shrewd by default. Doesn't matter which house he falls in. And he's taking the energy of Jupiter, which is looking for a fight, looking for the enemy part of it. So always suspecting the spouse as her enemy. She imagines things which are not there. You see what I'm saying? So for him, the ex-husband, it's puzzling. Why is she imagining all these things that doesn't exist? This is the sad part of it. It's not that she is in fault. It's not that he is in fault. It is just that her perception of what she imagines needs to be sorted. And if she knew this, for example, that's why I'm bringing this kind of a knowledge to you. If she knew this from the beginning, could she have prevented it? You see, this is where I come from. Let's see the 4th house. What's happening in the 4th house? Mars is sitting there, the 4th aspect, the 7th aspect, the 8th aspect of Mars is looking at all these houses. The 7th house looking at it from her perspective, 10th house from her perspective, and 11th house from her perspective. Also, the dispositor, because it's a sign of Taurus, it has gone to the 8th house. Now, what does 4th house represent? Spouse's domestic peace of marriage. In every marriage, you look for peace, you look for tranquility, you look for support, you look for nurturing, you look for caring, you look for love. You look for an emotional, psychological bond first. Not getting into bed with someone, that's over in 2 minutes. Please, let's not be childish. Peace of marriage should be seen from this domestic environment and overall atmosphere as experienced by the spouse, because we are talking from a spousal perspective. Family background of the spouse. It signifies cultural and emotional upbringing, values and traditions and so on. You can see this box. But this arrangement, what it leads to, I have summarized here. Home becomes a battleground. Aggressive anger and fights at home. Why? Because Mars is sitting there. And Mars in Taurus makes it very, very stubborn. Taurus is the stubborn sign, not moving. It's a fixed sign. Mars sitting in a fixed sign can be somebody who is not consolable, somebody who cannot be explained wisdom to. Even if Jupiter was looking at this, you can say, yes, at least I can talk some wisdom into her. But she's always constantly looking for fights at home. Let it be mother-in-law, let it be her mother, let it be anybody. Even she's looking at the house of career also. Even at career, she has tendency to fight and aggressively pursue things. Good maybe in career because Sun is in the 10th house. But not at home. You don't want such things at home. Aggression towards spouse. Why? Because Mars is looking at the 1st house here. Mars is looking at the husband directly. Aggressive towards mother-in-law, because this house represents her mother-in-law in case of Navamsha. I for financial assets from in-laws family, that Venus again. Taurus is very materialistic. It looks at Venus from the 8th house. She wants to discover how much financial assets he has. Or what are they hiding? I want that particular land. I want that particular real estate that they have. After marriage, they should make it in my name or my husband's name. You see? And Rahu, it's looking at Rahu also in the 11th house of gain. So she's all Taurus and gains. If Mars looks at Taurus sitting inside Taurus and Venus is sitting in the 8th, it's looking for land and real estate. And so far, last I knew, this is quite a long time ago now, about this couple. What I had heard was she is demanding a lot of money. Okay. And we can see why. Yeah. Let's look at the 5th house. So let's see her 5th house, which is 11th house for this gentleman. What is happening in the 5th house? There is Ketu sitting there. Again, we discussed first. Ketu sitting in the 5th house of a Navamsha chart isn't very good for romantic people. If this husband, we haven't got to his chart, we'll get to his chart next. If this husband is a very romantic type of guy, he's asking for trouble because Ketu is sitting in her 5th house, so it cuts off her sense of romance. And ironically, this couple fell in love head over heels and got married against everyone's wishes. This is difficult in India, okay? Maybe easy in USA, but this is not normal in India. Nowadays it is. So Ketu looks at the 5th house, makes romance very difficult, disconnected from creative intelligence, love, romance, children. Even if she has children, she will be disconnected from children. Ketu makes a person very liberalistic in intelligence. Worldviews are very expansive. Thinks about self-awareness and searching for identity. What does Ketu do? It searches for an identity and it looks to the aspects and disconnects them from that aspect as well. So she is looking at self. Ketu looks at self. Ketu looks at the 9th house. So this gives her very liberalistic views. This looks at always exploring and seeking identity. In this case, she will seek identity from him. This is ironical, isn't it? She is seeking identity from him and yet she is mean to him. See how that works? And also the dispositor of the 5th house in her case is sitting in the 3rd house, which we already saw is pretty badly damaged, right? So as it is, she has suppressed communication because Saturn looks at this. So all this is making it difficult for her. This part of the chart is making it difficult for her to be communicative, to be accepting advice from someone, that kind of a thing. See where I'm coming from? Let's look at the 6th house. Now let's see the 6th house. 6th house Jupiter is sitting, like we saw. It's an enemy house of debts and litigation and everything. It expands the area of the 6th house, which is for potential obstacles, disagreements, or power struggles between the spouses, right? So Jupiter in 6th makes a theme of learning from enemies. Useful at a workplace, not at home. Okay? You shouldn't start looking at home as enemy. Moon looks from the 12th. This is 12th looking at it from her perspective. So this leads to depression, emotional mood swings, transformation through grief and isolation, because 12th house is the house of isolation and spirituality. Tries to solve differences with wisdom and knowledge with the spouse. So her approach to solving conflict with the spouse is to give him advice, not to listen to him. Jupiter, contrary to what many people think can make a person wise, the same wisdom that Jupiter gets makes him very arrogant. The arrogance of professors, teachers, etc. I know better than you arrogance. Okay? It doesn't make a person necessarily spiritual. It makes a person arrogant, yes. Okay? Let's look at the 7th house. Now the house of spouse itself. What happens there? So in the 7th house of spouse, it's a Leo Aquarius friction. She's an Aquarian type person looking at her husband as a Leo type person. Okay, so there's this friction there because it's a fixed sign. Both this quadrant, okay, everything is fixed sign like we spoke of in earlier videos. 8, 2, 5 and 11 are all fixed signs in the Kendra, so it makes it very, very stubborn personality. Sees spouse as dominating, controlling and wanting everything his way, because she's looking at Leo. Okay, my way or the highway approach. Sun in the 10th house shows perhaps a past life karmic relationship with a leader of some kind. Leos are leaders. So it's like almost she has come for a revenge this time by getting married to this chap. Okay? Last time you did this to me, this time I will do this to you. That's karma at its best. Karmic relationship with the leader. Why? Because Leo is there. Probably in law enforcement. Why? Because Sun is sitting in Scorpio. Scorpio, especially in Jyeshtha Nakshatra, can become law enforcement people. So if she has had some beef with the husband's soul in some past life, probably like this, she's come here for settling some scores. How do we settle that is quite another matter, right? Let's look at 8th. Let's see what's going on in her 8th house, which is 8th house. Sorry, this is a little bit of wrong depiction there. 8th house opposite is 2nd house. There's nothing going on there. The dispositor of this guy is sitting in the 3rd house. Yes, not directly aspecting it. That arrow is wrong. So forgive my error. The dispositor is sitting Mercury in 2nd, 3rd house, which we already saw is debilitated because of Saturn impact, because of Ketu, Rahu going through Jupiter, all the yada yada. Venus is sitting in the 8th house. Venus is an important planet to look at, and Venus signs Taurus and Libra is important to look at in Navamsha. They are also called Shukra Navamsha. Shukra means Venus. So it's important to look at because Venus is the Karaka of Navamsha. It's the ruler of Navamsha chart itself. Doesn't matter what the chart looks like, it's a different story. Longevity and transformations through married life, changes of all kinds, be it financial, bond with the spouse, etc., etc., etc. You see that in that box. Looking at this, what does it lead to? Transformation may occur depending on transits, Mahadasha and Antardasha, regarding the stability of home for better. Possibility is also there for better. Although Mercury being impacted by Rahu and Venus, as said earlier, not Venus, Jupiter, will tend to warp that to divergent ways. To stick around and solve things is one approach, yes? Anything, any problem in life. To say, I don't want to have anything to do with it, I've had enough and I want to go my way. That's another way. It's just this way or that way. Why we tend to make it significant as individuals, just my opinion and what I have seen. Why we tend to take it so personally? Because our energy of dreams and hopes and heart fulfilled energies that we have attached too much to that other person is a lot. So shattering of that particular dream has got a deep psychological impact, like a bounce back on the person wishing for it, right? So my husband should give me this and this. This is what I want from marriage. If he doesn't give, it's his fault. This is deep attachment to your dreams and desires which you are demanding from the other person. Marriage is not a supply chain, okay? There is no demand and supply here. It doesn't work that way. It's just that you are being foolish in the bargain. And then these kind of karmas or these kind of things will play out. Unfettered, it will play out. Trust me. I've seen in many charts. I somehow keep getting relationship stuff. But this will play out if you don't seek an understanding. I tried to advise this gentleman many things in many ways. Do this, don't do this. Did not listen. Okay? Leo being stubborn in the Navamsha. I know better. I will do it my way. My way or the highway approach. Right. Let's see what house are we in? 8th. So 9th house. In the 9th house, we have Ketu over there looking at the 9th house, which makes this person very liberal minded, broad world view, very open minded about everything, accepting of all faiths, all religions, very accepting. Ketu is very liberal in nature. So looking at 9th house is good. Doesn't make this person narrow minded. She is very broad minded. And Venus again is the dispositor of the 9th house, which has gone and buried itself in the 8th house. What does this lead us to? Ketu provides that liberal mindset. Dispositor in the 8th making keen interest in occult, Reiki, New Age healing modalities and so on. All these unconventional modern New age healing modalities, let it be tarot, let it be palmistry, Reiki, you know, emotion code, body code, all this kind of healing methods she might get interested in later on in life. Venus is a great healer. That's a hidden part of Venus which is not explored really. Venus can be a transformative healer of occult kind, right? If ex-husband is more traditional, which we shall see in the next one, this could create rifts in the fundamental worldview and belief systems. If husband believes in one set of ideology, wife believes in a completely different direction, you're not matching there. Intellectual compatibility, one of the key factors why husband and wife tend to be like that, like a fork. Okay? Different styles of thinking. One is not better than the other. It's just different. Too different. There's no matching resonance, there is dissonance. That's what causes divorce. Dissonance. Now let's look at the 10th house, her career. Right, so 10th house also is a career. It's also the popularity of the couple. Now since its sun is in 10th house, okay, it makes them a popular couple. And the dispositor is in the 4th house Mars. So the people look at this couple, or used to look at this couple, as a power couple. Like they are dominant in both their family circles. As in husband family as well as wife's family, when they were husband and wife. So they used to look up to them as a popular couple. They were always welcome wherever they went, in both the families, because of this arrangement. And Jupiter is looking at that house as well, right? So this sun being in the 10th, Jupiter looking at it also from the 5th aspect, okay? Dispositor Mars looking on it could give a public opinion of a passionate, aggressive power couple. Aligning career aspirations of ex-wife with ex-husband could have worked out for their marriage. This lady, what do I mean by that? This lady has Mars looking at the career house where Sun is sitting. Sun and Mars are good for career, right? You will be competitive. You have drive, you have passion, you have energy to move forward and get stuff done. That's required for work. And Sun is there, which gives you the leadership qualities at work. All these things are good for work. Leadership you don't need at home, you need in the office. Right? And Jupiter is looking at that as well. Jupiter provides the wisdom. And from the 6th house, it wants to provide the ability to be wise how to conquer enemies. Simple. So, if the career aspirations of her husband had looked upon more and give more attention to, probably she would have been willing to work with him on all these fronts which were weak. That's a huge area to explore. Okay, I can go through 50,000 charts for that, but there's a possibility, right? But it should be worked out by both parties. Like they say, it takes two hands to clap, right? Now let's look at the 11th house. So what's happening in the 11th house? Jupiter, right? The dispositor of Pisces, Jupiter, is sitting in the 6th house. And Rahu himself is sitting in the 11th house. And Mars from the 8th aspect, who wants to dig and find out secrets, any aspect 8 from Mars wants to dig and find out secrets and conquer that area. It's brave about everything regarding 8th Scorpio, like Aries to Scorpio, that axis. Okay. So what happens as a result of this? 11th is what? Fulfillment of desires from marriage. Isn't that important? Why do we all get married anyway? As felt by the spouse, because we are looking at it from her perspective. It reflects potential for shared goals, aspirations, mutual satisfaction in achieving them. Now, Rahu being the dispositor of Jupiter, 11th makes her seek popularity and fame above all else. She wants to make the image of her and her spouse look good with everybody else. She's not interested in what's happening between her and her husband behind closed doors. Yeah, behind closed doors we don't know what's happening, but we should look popular. You've seen couples like those, don't you? Financial gains, wealth, prosperity mean the world to her because Rahu is sitting there. He's a Bhoga Karaka, and Jupiter is taking all the wisdom and shrewd and cunning from it. She's always thinking of financial gains. 11th house is also financial gains, popularity in social media, that kind of thing. Mars, looking at it from the 8th aspect, makes her seek to find out secrets about how to go about achieving this. Because it wants to know the secrets of how to get material abundance for marriage. So she is innately more focused on material tendencies, not so much on the marriage. If there was some other arrangement where she was focused on the marriage and emotional bonding part of it, then yes, things may have worked out, who knows. Now the last one, the 12th house, which Jupiter is directly looking at, is the house of Saturn, the 10th Capricorn, and Moon is sitting there. Never a good idea for Moon to sit in houses of Saturn. Saturn is first of all slow, melancholic, cynical, all negative emotional qualities. And when Moon goes and gets stuck there, Moon is planet of emotions, wanting emotional bonding, love, nurturing and caring. If it goes and sits in the house of Mr. Saturn, it has a tendency to suppress the Moon. It has a tendency to make it depression. Moon in the house of Saturn in 12th makes her prone to extreme mood swings, depression, especially considering her repressed emotion and speech. Remember the 3rd house we spoke of. X should have been more supportive of this condition if she saw, and I know he did because he told me so. Okay? She's extremely depressed all the time. I can't get her out of depression. That's depression. Understanding, spouse should have been supporting of this condition. Understanding, Jupiter can help a little bit because Jupiter tends to provide wisdom, but you can't dilute depression, mental, emotional depression, just with wisdom. You can't give philosophies to a person who is depressed. They need help, they need counseling, they need therapy, they need so many things. Yes. But Saturn and Rahu Mahadasha for this lady can make it really difficult. So, next we shall take up the case study of wife. This ex-wife's Navamsha chart, and we'll see what Mr. did there. Okay? Hopefully they both find their good ways and things work out for them in a different way. That's my hope, at least. I'm a kind of dreaming kind of guy. Okay, take care. Be safe.